Welcome to Spectrum Perspectives, real talk with parents, professionals, and autism advocates, with your host, Cindy Gellermini.
Hi, everybody, and welcome to my very first podcast, Spectrum Perspectives. And I'm your host, Cindy Gellermini. I live in New Jersey, and I am a mom of four. I have two twin girls and two boys that are all grown now at this point. And my son, Robbie, had severe autism. He was nonverbal. He had seizures, and he also had neuropathy in his hands and feet. Robbie ended up living in a group home. Long story short, I never wanted him to live in a group home, but the seizures were basically being brought on by stress. Every time he was not in school and not in that environment, he was making himself sick. And we came to the decision with other people from the state of New Jersey and things that it would be better for him to be living in a place where he could have 24-hour care. And when we did that, lo and behold, I discovered that the state had no idea what they were doing. And group homes did not know how to take care of anyone with autism. They'd never experienced that before. Up until this point, anyone that lived in a group home, their special needs were they were in a wheelchair, they just kind of moved slowly, and the women that worked in the group home were retirees, and all they really had to do was make their dinner, read the newspaper, make a couple phone calls, get the guys ready for bed, and put them to bed. And it was a very easy job. Then here comes my son, who's 20 years old, autistic, nonverbal, can't express himself, and was very frustrated and angry. And he was running back and forth, slamming doors, picking up chairs, throwing them across the room. The women freaked out. They would call the police to come. And it was just a disaster. So I started turning on my camera on my phone, and I just started talking about it. And I really only did it just to explain to family and friends so that I didn't have to keep repeating myself over and over again. And I just started explaining to them what was going on, threw it up on YouTube, and over time we just started getting thousands of followers. I called the channel Robbie and Me Autism Reality because this was my reality. One of the things that I was also frustrated with was the perception that when people heard, oh, your son has autism, they would think of the Rain Man and they say, oh, he's really a genius, right? No, not even close. My son was still wearing a diaper and basically functioned on the level of a toddler. And he really didn't seem to understand much of what you said, and he really needed the routine to understand his world and his environment. After he graduated school at 21, I found out that there's really no day programs or anything really for them to do. And this is really a problem because in the country, 1 in 50 kids are being diagnosed with autism. In New Jersey, it has the highest instance in the entire nation, where 1 in 32 kids are being diagnosed with autism. Now, my son, who would be 30 years old now, when he was diagnosed, it was 5 in 10,000 kids had autism. Okay, it's now 1 in 32. That's a tsunami that has hit. And I am trying to get to the question of why is there so much autism now? Why are there so many in New Jersey? You know, I don't know, but I tried to start making the point to legislators and the powers that be that if for my son, there's nothing out there after he turns 21, what's going to happen when all these other kids that are younger than him all turn 21? There's nothing out there. They're not ready. They're not ready for the tsunami of kids with autism that is about to hit the system. And something needs to be done, and it needs to be done now. We need to pave the way now to be ready for the 5-year-olds when they turn 21, okay? And it needs to start now. So I did this video blog for 4 years, and suddenly one day my son had a seizure in his sleep. I got a phone call at 7 o'clock in the morning on November 7th, 2017, that Robbie had a seizure, and they did CPR on him for 20 minutes and he never woke up. Robbie's in heaven now. So I had no idea that my video blog would end with his memorial service. Did not see that coming. It took me a year or two really to, be able to move on from that. Then I decided I still wanted to do something to continue to advocate for the autism community. What could I do? And someone had suggested that I write a children's book series. The day that Robbie went to heaven, someone found a toy penguin on my lawn. We kept finding penguins everywhere we went. My husband went to work and found a glass paperweight penguin on his desk. I can't explain these things. Penguins just started appearing. A couple of weeks later, when we went to clean out his room in his group home, Robbie watched Disney movies all the time. So I said, I'd like to see what was the last movie that Robbie ever watched. And I hit the eject button on his DVD player, and out came Happy Feet, the movie about dancing penguins. And that's when I knew I'm getting a message from heaven about these penguins. So I decided to write a children's book about a little penguin with autism, and it's called Robbies World and His Spectrum of Adventures. And when I sat down and wrote the first story, it really was just when Robbie was 2 years old. And Robbie didn't go to daycare, but in the story, I have the little penguin goes to daycare, and his teacher notices that Robbie doesn't talk and he really likes to rock, and he lines up all the toys and trucks, and maybe you better get him evaluated. And then the mama takes him to the doctor, and the doctor diagnoses him with autism. And that was it. And that was the 25 pages. I said, well, that's just the beginning of the story. I need to keep going. So I kept writing, and I ended up writing 12 chapters by the time I was done. And I split it into 3 books. So there's 4 chapters in each book. And so it is now a trilogy of books. And it's 4 chapters in each book, as I said. So it's 12 stories altogether from beginning to end. So it's Robbie's World and His Spectrum of Adventures, book 1, book 2, and book 3. So I then sat down and did 340 illustrations because I used to be a mural artist. I'm now a color consultant. If you watch the video version of my podcast, you'll see a mural behind me where it looks like I'm in the Bahamas. And I just like a colorful background. And so that was my COVID project. During the entire lockdown, I locked myself down at my dining room table and drew and painted 340 illustrations. And then in August, I did a Kickstarter campaign to raise money to self-publish the books. And I raised almost $20,000. Everybody just really was very supportive of the whole project, which was really exciting. And then I submitted it to a publisher by September, October, and then it took them 6 months to get through all of the typesetting and the editing. And then finally, it was released just before April of 2021, and April is Autism Awareness Month. So in order to begin speaking and doing PR for the books, I did a publicity summit in November 2020, and I met producers from TV, radio, and podcasts. So that began my podcasting journey. So in February, March, April of 2021, I was guest on different podcasts. And as I was speaking on these, I said, I think I could do this. I kind of enjoyed this whole podcasting world. Then in April 2nd, which was World Autism Awareness Day, I was on the Today Show, and they did a whole long feature story on me and Robbie and our books, which was amazing. And then I got a phone call from the governor's office because the governor's wife reads children's books every week on video. And it was a friend of a friend who has an autistic child. And she said, oh, let me see if maybe we can get them to read one of your stories on video. And oh, by the way, they would like to do something to help autism families. Well, that kind of lit a little fire in me. And I said, really? They want to do something to help autism families. Do they know what autistic families even need? Because I don't think if you don't live in the world of autism, you really don't know what's really going on. Which I learned from doing my videos, that people that I had known for 20 years, because our other kids, played soccer together and stuff, when they started watching the videos, they were stunned and they said, "Oh my God, I had no idea that's what your life was like." And there's a lot of misconceptions about autism. So I just thought, well, if the governor wants to do something, then maybe he needs to know what life is really like with autism and what families really go through and what they really need before they pass some nonsense legislation that nobody needs. So I did two things. First thing was I called up a dozen of my friends that I knew had autistic kids, and I said, "Hey, will you jump on a Zoom call with me and do an interview with me? And let's talk about what your life is like and what you would need. If you could have a one-on-one with the governor, what would you tell him that you need?" Then I posted on the New Jersey Autism page on Facebook, and I asked the same question. Hypothetically, if you could speak to the governor or a senator or some policymaker, what would you tell him that you need? And a couple hundred people chimed in. It was a pretty fiery post, actually. I had to take some screenshots of some of the stuff just so that I could remember. And even somebody even got kind of testy with me, and I said, "Whoa, I don't work for the governor. He's not my friend. I don't know the guy. I'm on your side. I'm a mom, just like you." I was asking a hypothetical question because I just want to know, if I end up talking to the governor's office, I would like to be a little bug in his ear and say, "Hey, by the way, I've talked to a lot of people in the autism community and this is what they need." That was it. That was my motivation. So through the Facebook post, I ended up making some new friends and meeting some other moms. And I interviewed a couple of them on Zoom calls. So as I started doing these Zoom calls with the intention of really just throwing them up on my Robbie and Me Autism Reality YouTube page, as I'm doing the interviews, I'm like, actually, these are really pretty good. I find them really fascinating. I find these stories really interesting. Every mom has a totally different story. Their perspectives on life with their child and on autism are all unique. And each show I found very, very interesting to listen to. Light bulb moment. Hey, this would actually make a really good podcast. So I put 5 or 6 episodes up on YouTube and I stopped putting them up on YouTube. And I said, that's it. I'm going to do my own podcast. So I worked on rebranding it. I came up with the title of Spectrum Perspectives because there is a wide spectrum, in autism, but also everybody has their own perspective. And you will see some people are convinced that vaccines cause their kids autism. Other parents don't believe that at all. Some people think it's genetic. Other people don't know. They have no idea. I talked about the journey that they went through trying to get help for their child. And then you'll start seeing that several of them all started foundations, who opened a bookstore, who's opened different businesses. Some have young ones, some have older children that are now adults. And each story is very unique and each one has their own perspective. And I find it fascinating. So I'm hoping that other people are going to find it fascinating as well. One of the things that I wanted to accomplish by doing any of my videos is that because my son is older, he would be 30 now, I wanted to help some of the young ones that their kids are just being newly diagnosed and they're looking for information, but really they just want to know they're not alone. They're looking for some type of a community. They want to know that there's other moms out there that are going through what they're going through. And the world of autism can be very isolating. When you raise a child with disabilities, they can take up your entire life, basically. You don't get a lot of sleep. Everything that you do is surrounded around them and their therapies and everything that they need. You stop being invited to parties, family gatherings. Your friends start dropping off because, and it's not even intentional, it's just that they're busy with their kids' activities and they're busy taking their kids to soccer and to baseball and to ballet, and you're just not living in that world with them. So I wanted to build kind of a community here for other families that are raising autistic kids. And I want them to meet other parents and hear their stories and have them say, hey, okay, we're kind of all in this together. You know, everybody's story is a little bit different, but yet they're the same. So that's my story. And I'm going to begin uploading, I think, twice a week, because what I've done is when I talk to moms will talk forever about their kids. What I thought would be a 20-minute, half-hour show would always go over an hour. So I decided to split the hour-long ones in half to try to keep each episode about a half hour long. I already have 30 episodes ready to go, and I haven't even started the podcast yet. And that would put me into, 7 or 8 months away from now before I can even do any new interviews. And I have so many more interviews that I want to do that I just really want to get to. So my plan is that I'm going to post on Mondays and Fridays. It'll probably be part 1 on Monday and part 2 on Friday. And then I've also met professionals that I have interviewed as well, people that are, doctors, attorneys, but I don't want this to be a clinical show. I want it to be really interesting, and I want you to pick up things and some knowledge, but I want it to be interesting and I want it to be fun as well. My intended audience is really anyone that especially if you have autistic children and you want to just hear other people's stories, and people that don't have autistic children, but you just want to hear really interesting stories and be really inspired by other people's lives, and to hear, what they go through on a daily basis and how they've handled it and what they've done and what the outcome is. Through this, I'm hoping to build a community. And I have other plans in the works and other goals and things that I want to do to help families that have autistic kids. But step 1 is going to be the podcast. And I'm meeting new people and I'm learning from them. And I'm excited for you to meet them and learn from them as well. That's it in a nutshell. And I hope you enjoy my podcast and you tune in every week. And you get to hear stories of some amazing people. I'm also going to be interviewing people that have autism as well, not just parents. And there's some really amazing stories. I don't want to give anything away. You're just going to have to tune in every week. But I know it's coming, and progressively just gets better and better. That's it. I hope you enjoy it and you tune in for my next episode. Talk to you later. Bye-bye.